All right, so we're gonna get started now, and cause it's 6:30, like 3, and we're trying to start on time, right? So I think I know almost everybody in this room, but I'll introduce myself. I'm Maria Wolf. I am your facilitator for this meeting, and I am a Homeless Innovations Officer of Health, Housing, and Homelessness. So let's kick off by going around the table and having everybody introduce themselves. And I know I'm going to start with Marty, because you've never been here before.
That's true. Hi, I'm Martin Dodd. I'm with APD with the Crime Analysis Unit. I'm a supervisor over half of the analysts.
Over half of what?
Over the analysts with the Crime Analysis Unit. We're both supervisors, but it's split here. So.
Yeah, my name is Michelle Dapson. I'm also a supervisor with APD's Crime Analysis Unit. I look over our field analysts.
Sandra Correa, President of Elder Homestead and Vice President of District 6 Coalition.
Janet Simon, President from Parkland Hills Neighborhood Association.
Pete Leto, President, District 6.
Hi everybody, my name is Charlie. I'm a new deputy director at Health, Housing, and Homelessness for the city. So we've got a bunch of us, and so yeah, new started on Monday. So really glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
My name is Chuck Lennon, Jared Levy Holman. I'm the author of 7 Steps to Ending Homelessness. You have a sheet in front of you that sort of recaps the book. And if you'd like to have more information about it, we need volunteers to help the city end this homelessness. I want to make that city beautiful like it was 50 years ago. I can't remember. No chance on the street.
I'm Ugly Mike. I'm a community member for half my life here, 35 years, I guess, 37. And I have engaged with homeless folks for 13 or 14 years since the days of Mayor Barry's initiatives. And we're going to be trying to collaborate with Chuck and Pete and a couple of other people who have plans for addressing homelessness and helping our homeless neighbors.
Great.
Oh, I am also trying to provide recordings of these meetings. I bought that to facilitate this. And if you want to be heard, speak up and speak towards the microphone as opposed to over here.
Yeah, let me just thank Mike for being our volunteer technician for this each time. And now we have video and audio because of his hard work. So.
And I need some feedback on how well or poorly this system is working so I can do some editing, audio editing if necessary. Okay.
Hey everybody, Jeffrey Bustamante, deputy at ACS. I didn't mind the audio. I got a face made for radio, so I was okay with it. But no, really excited to be here.
Super. I'm very Congress, member of Parkland Hills. Great.
Hi, I'm Michelle Kino, and I'm a program manager at the Gateway Shelter for Women.
Hi everyone, Connie Chavez, I'm the CEO at Eddie Home.
And John?
John Considine, Parkland Hills Neighborhood Association, and also Parkland Village. And I've lived here since 1985, same house, corner of Southern and Monroe Southeast.
Holly Book, I'm a member of Parkland Hills.
We've got a strong Parkland Hills.
Laura Kuehn, I'm a senior crime prevention specialist with APD.
And I just want to apologize because I wrote Lauren. I just, in my defense, our city attorney is Lauren Keene, and Lauren Keene, and I've been spending a lot of time with her as well as Lauren Keene, and they both have LKs, and so like my brain is like, oops. So just sorry.
And I'm Rachel Hernandez, public outreach and volunteer coordinator for Triple H.
Okay, and just to get a little bit of the logistics out of the way, we have written the bathroom code on the back. And for those of you who don't know, the bathrooms, you go right here, you turn left and at the water fountain. And the first door is the men's, though it doesn't say that. and the second door is the women's, so it does not say that. And so, but those are the codes, and so if one doesn't work, you could try the other, and chances are you get it in. And if you have trouble, just let us know, we'll just take them. So we have consistent community communication guidelines. I'm just run through them, because we always do. The first is to be heard on issues and be easy on people, because we're all spending the evening together because we care about this. Please respect the speaker. We all know about that one from school, but we also say respect the listener. If you have a chance to ask a couple questions or give some input, step back, let somebody else in the room, and we'll come back to you. Listen to learn and seek to understand. So instead of checking somebody's grammar, or if they use a slightly wrong word, don't get hung up on that. Just try to understand what they're trying to say. We try to understand time constraints, respect the agenda. We also try to have time commitments for things that we're planning to have so that we can circle back and make sure we stay on track. And we try to be kind and solution focused. Does anybody have a communication guideline that you like to use that we don't have represented there? Okay, we'll go with those then. We'll go with those, Wally. He's giving me that look again. Okay. The next on our agenda, which I don't have in me, but I wrote it, so I should know. We are planning today to really work on our APD crime prevention stats. And so we're lucky to have Michelle and Marty and Laura here to really talk about how we can get those measures. You have in front of you the 311 stats for this month with a little call out box looking at last month's so that you can see it if you weren't here and didn't get it. Yeah, additional copies. Oh, were we out of them? They're right there in the chair. Sorry. So take a look and just want to make sure that you have these things each month. And what we're committing to is to provide the same thing. And what we can also do is check back after a time to see if those measures that you asked for on the 311 were the measures you were wanting. So then we'll go into community questions. And one of the things that we always try to have is a Gateway Housing Navigation Center update. So we're fortunate today to have with us the Heading Home Director, Connie Chavez, and Michelle, who works with us too. Michelle has more of the details on Gateway, but this is Connie. Is it your first time being able to come to this meeting? Yes. So welcome. We're glad you joined us. Thank you. So Heading Home is our operator for the Gateway shelter right now. Heading Home also works with us on our Family Housing Navigation Center and is our current operator out of the West Side Emergency Housing Center. And they also have Street Connect that does intensive street outreach to the most acute people who are high utilizers of emergency services, and the Job Connect program. And then they run the Albuquerque Opportunity Center, which is a men's shelter for 76 beds. Look, you got it right. And they also have housing specialists. And what am I missing?
So we have a SOAR program, which is helps folks with their disability applications, put them through that system. And so, yeah, I think you captured them all.
So Heading Home is a major provider in our city. So, Michelle, do you have some information on current occupation beds at our? Want to go for it? You want to? Okay. Yes.
Do I have to go to the front?
You don't have to. You don't have to. But if you come over here, Michael will be so much happier because his recording device will pick it up.
Like I'm auditioning.
Usually Arias sits right here.
That should be better.
All right. So right now we are completely full. We have 50 beds, and we are completely full at capacity. Yeah.
do you have any of the information on placements or how long people have been in or any of that you would add to it or?
So we have two that are gonna be housed by the first, so that's really good. Oh, yes,
How? I mean, where would they be going?
they will be going to their own apartments.
Their own apartment?
Yes. Yeah, so that's exciting.
And we'll get more in-depth details. Arias is on vacation.
She is.
We'll get her normal report with the more detail. We just had a little glitch because I had an RSVP that she was actually gonna be able to attend, and so I didn't bug her about it in advance. So we'll get more detail to you guys next go around.
Yeah.
Anybody have a question for Gateway?
So you were heading this out.
Arias is only on vacation.
Yeah, she's only on vacation.
Yeah. Arias Foster is usually at the meetings. Do you guys remember Arias? And so they usually have that longer report with a lot of detail on exits and entries and.
Right.
And usually there are 50 male beds and some female, some lady beds. Is there a difference?
So we have,
Let's go around.
no, we're still just at 50 male beds right now. The main change that has occurred since we got together last time is that the first responder receiving area has opened now. Terry usually is getting here a little late, and so if we have a chance, we'll have him give us an update on how that's going. That's the only change at this point. You're thinking of the 35 beds that were winter shelter, and that was only October. Like I was just like, oh, I know what you're thinking about. Winter shelter was just that. It's only open from October through March.
I'm only 3 or 4 months late.
That's okay. That's okay. I know all the moving pieces.
But there's 50 beds for men?
Not
For women. For women.
For women, okay.
Yes, just women at this point.
Yes,
Right.
okay.
All right.
So that means nobody can get in.
Nobody can get in or out.
No in.
We can't add any people to it. Yes, all the beds are full right now.
Right. So there's a waiting list.
In this facility, yes.
Yeah, and I'll just add, Maria, that, yeah, it is always at capacity. We never have an empty bed. And it's just, and we are moving. We work at Heading Home, we're moving to get folks, the women, into their own housing until pathway to housing. That's the goal. We have 4 case managers who work with the women directly to get them, to find them housing. Some of them are self-pay housing because they do have income. Some of them get on housing vouchers when they are available. Some of them get reunited with family, move, there's a variety of pathways to get folks housed through this process.
You have a question, Carrie?
I do. What if I was homeless and I wanted to get into the program here? How long time-wise is that waiting list?
Well, every day is different, right? So maybe there's no one leaves, maybe 5 people leave in a day. So we go off a referral system. So any service provider, so say you work with healthcare for the homeless, they're able to put in a referral and we get it in real time. So they send a referral, we get it immediately.
Okay, that wasn't really my question though. Typically, how long? I didn't ask how many are on the wait list. I have no idea how quickly you move through the wait list. But typically, if I was at the bottom of the wait list, how long did it take me to be admitted?
There's so many variables, right? So we can call, say there's 10 people on the wait list, and I call 9 and no one answers and you're 10, you could get it.
I understand that. I'm not asking you for a precise date. Can you even give me an approximation for a typical? A month, a year, a day?
It's not a month.
So I can tell you that I have been at the West Side Shelter and see a person who hasn't been there before, and they tell me that they've had a referral. And then I'm trying to think, sometimes it's 3 weeks, sometimes it's, 6 weeks. It just depends on who's there and how quickly they're cycling out into housing or other situations. So I don't really have it definite, but what we can do is write it on our board, ask Arias for that, for the update that she'll give us. What is the
Typical,
range
Yeah,
of
typical
dates
range.
on the referral list?
And I'll say that, let me add to that variable, Maria, because what happens is they not only put in referrals, service providers put in referrals to the Gateway, to the Barrett Foundation, to various places, so they could already be somewhere else, right, but when they get to the wait list. So it's a moving, so as Michelle said, if we go through those, folks lose their phones, we can't contact them.
Right.
It's difficult, then they can get in, but we'll get that information.
Yeah, it's a good question. Yeah, sorry, we weren't trying to obfuscate, we're just like trying to say it's not always real clear, but we'll get the data and then we'll be able to answer it. Yeah. John.
Maria, were you talking about the west side shelter in Southall too?
No, the West Side Shelter is far from full right now. So the West Side Shelter maxes out at 660. I think the numbers I saw were like 453 right now.
That's correct.
So like 122 women, men and couples.
So if they can't get in here, are they offered a ride out to the west side?
Always.
Always, okay, and that's probably where a lot of them come from.
Yeah. Everybody is offered shelter regardless.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah.
The West Side Shelter tends to be controversial when speaking in public, or before the public. The rumor on the street is that the, Heading Home organization decided not to reapply or to oversee it.
It's not just a rumor, it's true.
Yeah, and in order to entice them to come in on an interim basis, their pay was doubled.
Okay, so let me clarify that because it's actually inaccurate information. I did hear that that was reported or announced. So the contract is the same contract we had last year because we don't know how long the contract's gonna last, right? I mean, and what Heading Home is paid for in this contract is what they're spending on the staffing. We don't just send over whatever the contract amount is at the beginning of the contract cash wise. It's a reimbursement contract. So they are only allowed to be paid for what they have spent on the staffing that's agreed in the contract.
So they make no profit?
No profit.
They're a nonprofit organization.
Yeah, but even nonprofit organizations need money to operate.
So, and I'll let you guys know that the contracts are public information. They're approved by city council. And so if you have questions, you have access to the information. The contract is a month-to-month renewal contract until the new operator comes in.
It is a 6-month contract to December 31st, right?
That's
And
what I heard.
it's to December 31st, but it is based on 6 months worth of operations, right? And so what we agreed to do, Heading Home agreed to do was, yes, we are exiting that. We just don't have the capacity to do that and to do it well, right? And so, but there's human beings living out there and we want to make sure that there was a smooth transition and that we agreed to stay on until a new operator could be found. And that's the goal.
In discussion with a few people who went to the west side to bid on the operational piece, the remarks were very disheartening, very, very concerning. Hence, they didn't submit a bid. Have those conditions improved, stayed the same? What is happening there? Because Connie's right. We're talking about human beings and the reports on living conditions, public safety down the line is dismal.
Right, and so I think you guys all have heard me in this very meeting say that we had to make it a priority to improve the facility. And so we were really happy that City Council passed a gross receipts tax improvement bond. So we now have the funding to get that done. So far, one of the dorms has been pretty much completed. We just have to get some of the nicer furniture that Presbyterian has donated into it for the seating area around the television. 2 more dorms are on the cusp of being done. The hallway has been refloored. The entryway has been refloored and repainted. So we're getting progress. I did not put that on today's agenda, and so I'm gonna actually stop this questioning so we can get to what we had on our agenda pretty soon. But I'm happy to share some pictures with everybody of what it's looking like in the finished dorms, the new beds, it's a new setup that's coming, and the people who are there are really excited about it. The bathrooms are getting improved, you know, it's a full dorm refresh that we're talking about.
And there's 6 pods, right?
There are 12
12
dorms, yes. Pods are our old prison language, so we don't call them pods
Pardon me?
anymore. They're dorms now.
Army dorms.
Yeah. So yeah. So unless anybody has a really pressing thing, I would like for us to get into our APD conversation, because sometimes we get a little sideways with our agenda. Is that okay with everybody? Okay, and I am happy to take more questions, and I'm also happy to send the group photos of the West Side Shelter so that you can see the updates and see where we are. And we can do that as like a little 5 minutes at the next meeting to give you guys an update. Does that sound good? We're also reviewing the RFP for service providers for more casework in the coming year as well. So we'll be reviewing that this week. So, okay.
So a brief question on point.
Okay.
Heading home has a presence here for the next 6 months and on the west side for the next 6 months. And then what?
So Heading Home has a presence at West Side for 6 months to enable the transition to a new operator. They are not opting out of the RFP, and they were allowed to renew, we were allowed to renew the contract with them for their services here. So
So the contracts are a year long
they're a year long.
and they get renewed or you reapply.
Yes,
So
but we don't have to put, yeah, so
fiscal year,
they're gonna stay here for a full fiscal year is the intent. For the gateway,
beginning with.
July 1.
July 1 to June 30th is the fiscal year.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. All right, so let's set the stage for what we're looking for, and then Marty and Michelle are gonna do a brief presentation. So this group, I forgot to give you the map. This group is really concerned about safety in this area and the impact on safety that this facility could have in the future. And so one of the things that we wanted to, they have a half-mile radius that the city patrols multiple times a week. Does anybody need this map from previous meetings, or did you all get it? You haven't gotten it. And you guys need it too? This is, we regularly go through this half mile and report any encampments, and those go to the encampment team for immediate outreach. But one of the things we're wanting to do is figure out, how do we set a baseline for comparison purposes to see if there is an impact ongoing, right? Is that what we're doing? Everybody agree? Okay, I'm sorry, could you repeat that? We're working on setting a baseline for measures that then we're going to report on each month, so that we have a comparison point to see if there is an improvement, negative impact, things like that. So what kinds of things, what we did with 311 was identify the kinds of things that we wanted to search on and be able to report on for the area. So with that, okay, Wally, what?
Something else that we're interested in is not seeing the same faces every time we drive by Easterndale.
Okay.
So that's within the half mile. I mean, it's the same over and over we have for a long time. So if something's not working or progress is, I'm not seeing any progress. we're not seeing progress.
Just real quick, can I ask, has the bridge opened yet, the pedestrian bridge?
It looked fenced off to me.
So, I mean, that's not improvement when you take away safe crossing for pedestrians just to avoid having to, I don't understand what the people that are,
May I,
yes,
add
oh,
that?
take it.
I talked with Doug Small about it. 1, 2, 3, 4 times. And then the 5th time, I was able to connect with him. And I said, folks, where I live want the bridge open. Or they want to know why it's closed. They want to know something. He admitted that it was a security issue. And that's why they fenced it off. Because they can't prevent homeless folks from living there.
So,
And you know,
From sitting there.
so what that
Living
means
there,
is they
living there.
cannot secure this area. That's
and,
what you're
and you know,
saying.
that's a concern, as Eastern is. I also drove by Eastern. It's loaded again. I talked to Rachel about, what was it, 3 weeks ago? And man, she moved heaven and earth, it got cleaned out. And now it is really, really a problem here. There's a large number of folks there.
Okay,
So we're worried about the security zone. We're really worried about it. Folks I talked with, Dr. say, is it really being secure?
Right.
Or is it?
Obviously not.
Right, and part of it also is that there are things that people are legally allowed to do and that APD cannot go in and in an enforcement way make a change. If somebody is walking along in the street, they're allowed to do that. So even if you're not happy that they're in your neighborhood, they're still allowed to do that.
They're living.
We're talking about
Are you not
walking.
They're living.
Yeah, okay, so, and that goes into the encampment enforcement aspect that we can work on. But just step back, because what we're here to do today is really talk to APD about what are the measures, what are the things that they bring to the table to help us do ongoing reporting and look at the numbers. They do Mark 34, they have their tracking, they have their data for the police side of things. And so we have our 311 tracking, we have police tracking. So those are two of the pieces that we need to have in our picture that we're working with here. Because you can see one encampment in your neighborhood and feel like nothing's being done, right? You can't, right? Yes. Because if you look at the numbers and you see that, wow, last month we had 12 and this month we have 3. Well, something's being done. It's not exactly what we want, but we're making progress. Or you can look and you can say, oh, last month we have 6 and now we have 18. What the heck? Right? So let's work with real data instead of just the perception of, I just saw that same person again. Huh?
One oh darn torpedoes a whole bunch of attaboys.
It's absolutely true. It's absolutely true. So let's work with the data. Let's work with what we have. Let's learn about what we can do.
You don't move up to Mike's mic over here.
Yeah, you come close
Yeah.
and make Mike happy.
I don't know.
We have an empty chair here if
I
you'd rather,
can
but
sit
you
down.
can
I don't
also
know.
stand.
It might help you.
Whatever you're comfortable
I
with.
gesticulate.
You need to go on the water.
So we didn't do a half mile. This is based on a map that was created in the summer of 22. This is the patrol area for what we call the Gibson Public Safety District within APD. And we have since, I think it was July of 22 was our first report. We provide a monthly report to the officers about some crime that is happening in those areas and gives them an idea of where they should be spending their time. So actually that discussion that you guys were just having is actually really helpful for us to get an idea of what we could actually, what kind of information you guys might be interested in, because we're still sort of working on all of this. Did we get approval to share this? Like, out publicly, we could,
Not yet, but that's just
we
because.
get approval, and then we can send it out. We can get
It's just
people.
all business, data, so it's all public.
It is, yeah. It
It's
doesn't
also
hurt.
roughly based on tweets that we have, which is also all public.
Yeah, so the way this shape was developed was initially they had asked, we had a discussion about how far out to go, and there was some discussions about like correlation, the distance to, but they were really interested in a mile from where we are now. And then we drew it, a little bit, the, west side is drawn by the beat lines there, and then the east side, a mile hit the bottom of Filchacone Park, and the way the data is drawn out, that was gonna cause some confusion. So we extended it to cover all of Filchacone Park, and then we, went along streets, because the cops work in cars mostly. So, let's go to the lines if we can. So this is from the start of, our patrolling the area. We have back to January 22. It was in the summer. I don't know. Or we can, because we can look back, historically further back than when we started, but this line here is the, December, which, I was told was when we started taking in residents here, December of 22. Wasn't that?
It was August of 23,
Later.
September of 23. Yes.
We can adjust our numbers, but this is, we're just cutting up the numbers a couple of different ways, just to see what's going on. But generally speaking, our lines here are, blue is property calls. Our calls are, we have a list of what's broken out and what each calls, but because it's CAD data, it's by calls coming in, not by what the officers are reporting on when they actually arrive on scene. But the blue is property, red is violent, and the orange is quality of life, which is a little bit esoteric, so we can talk about the list at the end. But property is only raising slightly over this time period. I've lost the entire thing. Did I touch it? Oh, no, that's okay. I figured out how to do this. We practiced earlier. Quality of life has really gone down dramatically. And violent really, I mean, I think a lot of this trend is because of this one, and that was, what is this, December, January of this last year, last winter. I feel silly about that December line. That's okay. One of our numbers isn't gonna make any sense. That's okay. So let's go 2 slides forward then, because that one doesn't mean anything. This was originally before and after, 6 months before, 6 months after versus 6 months before. See how it changed around that December, but we can skip this one because we'll adjust. This is why we're here. Make it
Well,
better.
since it hadn't moved yet, it shouldn't be like a major.
Right. It's pretty
Go
steady.
December, you can go August, it's not gonna be hugely different, so
So
you're fine.
So this is the last 6 months of the last chunk of that map from this year compared to last year. And then by property, quality of life, and violent calls. And then the bottom half here is that those same metrics, but for across the whole city, to give an idea of what, how bad is it in comparison to everything else. Two. The quality of life and property is going down over this period when everything else is actually going up across the city. This went up pretty significantly, but this is a year-over-year comparison. We have another one here in just a second that has 12 months that is a little bit different. What we know is that this was a particularly low period based on previous times. So we would like to cut it up in a couple of different ways to get a better concept of what has happened. And citywide, it went down slightly, not a lot, slightly. This is pretty average. This is just normally what we see. Our next one here is, this is the previous 12 months, but compared against the 6 months back from June to January, and then the 6 months before that. So this is looking at that line, that last little one. Yeah, sure.
Marty, could you explain quality of life?
Why don't we go to the end? Let's talk about that for a second. So here's the types of calls. Quality of life is largely speaking calls that we get in that do not fall into property or violent crimes.
Also, I can list it out because I don't know.
Yeah, you want to just
Hard to see.
that's a big list.
Oh, that's okay. So our quality of life calls go for a welfare check, any kind of animal call, a domestic violence escort. So that's usually an officer escorting a victim, or the offender away. Any kind of direct traffic, on-site traffic, a missing person, a wanted person, a juvenile call, suspicious person, an intoxicated person, a prowler, disturbance, loud music, loud parties, panhandlers, sleeping individuals, behavioral health calls, neighbor trouble, suicide, traffic accidents with and without injury, any kind of narcotic calls, dead on arrival calls, or community activity calls, any kind of demonstrations that we may have, and a VIP enforcement call.
And VIP is Violence Intervention Program.
There.
So that's where they're, yeah. We'll have to read.
Certainly, such quality of life.
But we have this clear with our commanders because I was like, we told our commanders, we're just a bunch of civilian nerds. We haven't been on the force. I haven't been on the force as long as they have. So we kind of double checked it with them to make sure that these, like in their eyes, they also saw these as quality of life.
We can go over the property and violent calls, but these are generally speaking, property crime and violent crime. Or the other way around, that's violent, this is property. Yeah. So then, we go back to the 6-month one real quick. One more, there you go. So this one, we see a similar trend. The property calls and quality of life calls are going up a little bit, but the quality of life for the city also went up, so it actually went up less than the city for this area. And again, this one is very small. I mean, that's not statistically significant, yeah. And violent calls is down, but down less than the city. So it is, there is something to suggest that there's slightly more violent than it has been previously, that's trending upward on violence, but really not a lot.
Yeah, to add on to Marty, our violent, oh wait, that's probably what, also, but our violent calls, even though it's, sometimes they start trending upwards, we notice that it trends upwards in the summertime,
That's true.
just because it's hotter.
Yeah. Yeah, you want to go back to the line graph really quick? Can we talk about that for a second? So let's see, we should have marked out summer, so that's okay. Talking about, there's warm time. Oh, I can draw.
Yeah, I was like, can't you?
This is like May to September. May to September and April, May, June.
Yes, you see.
You do get this, as it gets warmer, we get these little lifts. This last winter, for whatever reason, we don't really know why, was just a pretty violent winter overall.
And do you have the breakdown of, in that list that you are using for your violent?
Of like, which, what violent calls were, we didn't produce that for today, but we certainly could produce that, yes, yeah.
And so you guys are getting approval to release these slides to us?
We're gonna ask for this specific one, and then,
And then the quality of life listing, so that you guys will have that.
Yeah, I was like, we sent it to our deputy chief and he's, also we sent it to him today, so it might take until tomorrow. And he said, yeah,
That's fine. We'll attach it to the notes that where we put the agenda and put the link to the video of it so that you guys can look at it there. Sound good? Yeah. That work for you, Mike? Our tech person who gets all of our records up. Okay.
Did you have a question? I have a question. Like, if you're going to correlate it to the opening of this place, when it first opened, we had like 2 people, 3 people, 4 people. So I should find out when we got full and how long.
We went 50 right away.
We did?
Yes.
Yeah. I was at the meetings at the beginning where there was like 5 people, 10 people, 2 people.
Here in this room or at the shelter?
No, at the shelter.
Yeah, no, we went 50 people straight off the bat. I mean, honestly, they had the list. No, like no, because there we opened the door for referrals and then maybe it was 2 or 3 people the first couple of days, but like.
So, yeah, and maybe there's some clarity here, right? So there were women that were sheltered before they got up here, so that was probably
Maybe that was my confusion.
and I think that's my confusion as well, and I'll just apologize right now, because I came to the organization last May 2023. So there was a temporary shelter while this was being constructed,
Yes.
and then, but that was full. We took 50 women from here to the top.
Yeah.
So
Where was that?
that was
So, yeah, I forgot about that because I started in July after she started. So you were right, Wally, there were 50 and 50 at one point, and that was again, sort of that winter shelter. But then instead, when the winter shelter closed down, the men left, but the women who were here, because they were gonna go into the Gateway Center, they stayed on. So yes, you're right. There were like 13 for a time period, but the actual Gateway Center opened in September 23. That was the official opening. The reason we're having this conversation is because the date for when you're setting the baseline, like, honestly, I don't think it makes a big deal in my head if you started when it was that winter shelter with the 50-50, or if you started when the Housing Navigation Center started. That's the conversation we're having today, is what is the date? What is the data baseline that we're setting? So we can entertain either one.
And this summer of 22 was when APD started paying attention to that mile area. This is when we started having that conversation and actually developing the TAC plans and instructing officers to spend additional time within those boundaries.
The community is very pleased with Commander Langwood.
Good.
And
He's wonderful.
Very pleased.
Good.
They're where they're supposed to be, and when they're not, within an instant, they're there. So we really notice. We're feeling much more secure. It's the security zone around Gateway.
Right.
That we're insecure about.
So that's the other thing we can change, is we can change this to be looking at that reduced area.
So we can do layers too.
Oh, certainly.
Both.
Yes.
So that you have that Gibson area
And
and
we can do
then
the
the more
comparison.
intensive.
Do the
Or-
comparison between the two of if it gets more concentrated or not.
That's right. And you know, Commander Langwood actually grew up in this area.
Sure did.
So
It's a Highland High graduate.
he's very vested in this.
We're very proud of it.
Also, school starts on the 7th. I don't know. A lot of people don't go to Wilson because of how the neighborhood looks, so I don't know if you could just make it look a little bit better, just right before school starts at least. So they don't just drive their kids to school.
Is there any kind of ordinance or law that says you can't camp so close to a public school? I know I drove down next to Wilson one time and it was, I mean, there must have been 30 people there camped out. This was a while ago. But it,
Yeah,
I was horrified.
I work at Wilson and I have to send the kids to the pool for PE.
Oh.
Walk in their bathing suits, right? That's all that.
No, that's not right. See, that's just not right.
It's pretty horrifying.
So there is no,
So I'm gonna, so if it was a while ago, I think you guys will recall that at one point we were under an injunction and we were trying to figure out what can we enforce, what can we not enforce with regards to parks and when parks are closed and when they're open.
schools.
So-
I'm talking,
So Wilson is a park.
well,
So
it's also a school. It's a little.
it's adjacent to a school. They're not on school property or else APS police would remove them. So like
Okay, that
that's-
was my question.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah, if they're on school property, APS police can remove them immediately. That's an immediate removal. There's no question they have to move on.
Did the Supreme Court decision
right.
clear up the ambiguity there?
The Supreme Court decision cleared up ambiguity. So I'm not the attorney for the city to explain this to you totally, but they did say that local jurisdictions can enforce their laws. So,
it leaves it up to the local.
so it is up to us.
We made a decision, we just can't get the enforcement. Thank goodness we have a very strong police substation in our area.
You do. The other thing to know is that we're, even with the Grants Pass decision, we still have McClendon, which limits how our officers can deal with people who are unhoused right now. They cannot just arrest. They are allowed to cite but not arrest unless the crimes meet other criteria. And so, and if you guys want a more in-depth presentation on McClendon, we can arrange for that, but just know that has a limitation on what officers can do. The consent decree also has some impact on that, and we are still under a lawsuit that we're dealing with on property storage. So that's shifting more to a property storage focus. So there are still things that we're struggling with, but that's why when you look back on like there were a lot of people there, we were just trying to figure out like, what are we allowed to do with this injunction the court's placed on us? Now that has changed again. So you shouldn't be seeing that same crowd the same way you did. So. Anything you think?
So when these kids are walking down to the pool,
Uh-huh.
can there be any, assurance that these kids aren't gonna have to walk by a bunch of homeless people to get to their pool?
So are you walking through the park to get to
No,
the
they
pool?
walk from Wilson on Cardenas.
Uh-huh.
On the sidewalk, right?
Yeah, on the sidewalk.
Yeah, so,
Right.
so here's the thing, whether a person is housed or unhoused, whether they have a shopping cart or not, they are allowed to use the city park when the city park is open.
This is the
This is just
sidewalk.
the sidewalk.
It's the
By
sidewalk.
the tennis court.
Are they blocking the sidewalk?
I don't know, so it's, you know, there's a little
Some use
shelf
of,
there and they have a little right in front of the.
So,
tennis court.
okay,
I mean, I don't know.
no, this is a very specific case, so
Yeah.
let's have a visit with your lieutenant or with Commander Langwood to see what the issues and see what our options are. How does that sound? Does that sound realistic for us? Is that like our best way to deal with something like this, you think? It's just like, let's take it to the province who know what's allowed.
Laura,
Also find out what the limits are in the
when
immediate
enough,
vicinity of the school.
Well, no,
If
there,
there
I
is.
So-
mean, is the rule the same?
so people can be on the sidewalks around a school. What you can't have on, you can, I mean,
When does it become a lawyer or when does it become some?
When they're on the
After
school
the-
ground, when they're on the school ground.
Only?
Right. I mean, public spaces, if even if you're unhoused, you're allowed to be on public spaces. I mean, that's part of public space. That's part of what we, like, because I'm hearing this on the other side with our civil rights committee. So like, we have to maintain basic civil rights. And so that's part of what we're looking at. And so what we'll do is ask APT, in this situation, this is what the discomfort is. What are the options and where are the lines? Where does it go from white to black? That's something.
a question to Laura, when an officer approaches a homeless encampment, there's a citation given, but isn't there also questions asked, do you want safe housing? And if you say, no, I don't, then the criteria changes.
That was part of the injunction Maria was talking about, but we were dismissed out of that. And actually ACS is the public safety arm that is responsible for encampments. So APD, unless there's some kind of weapons, violence, something like that, don't respond to homeless encampments. It's actually the ACS responders that go.
What about it?
It's so in a non-enforcement capacity.
Right.
So if they're encamped on a sidewalk or something like that, we'll roll out there and say, hey, you're gonna get moved, solid waste, the interaction team's probably gonna be out there soon. Giving you 72 hours notice, doing things. Before you get to that point, why don't you request? If they do, then we can support them, we can keep them. If they don't, they hold out, then it just starts to move towards solid waste for the enforcement side. And if there's criminal activity where, and understanding the difference between civil and criminal offenses, that if somebody is brandishing a weapon and the rest, then it will escalate to the. And if we see that actively, it's violence or whatever, then we're going to be within.
In District 6, have been working with Wilson Elementary, and Sandra has taken the lead on this. It's called the Walking School Bus Program to provide security for walkers. And we're all finding that there's a huge attendance issue with walkers when there shouldn't be.
There's a what? Attendance issue with walkers?
Yes.
Okay.
And so we read it again, everybody said, gee, good idea, we can't fund it. When we were able to talk to Commissioner Balboa, she immediately funded it for 15,000. And then Nicole Rogers provided another 15,000. So we're gonna have, Sandra, a 5-day-a-week program in place. And Sandra's been very, very active with this. And this is alarming. What a teacher just said.
Thank you.
About children in bathing suits. I mean, there's a quality of life issue, there's a common sense issue, there's basic health and safety.
Right.
Regulations sometimes get in the way. I mean, why don't we bring the ACLU and show them?
So why don't we start with APD coming and looking at what the issue is so that we really understand what the options are, and ACS as well. I mean, like, those are the departments that are supposed to work on this, so now that we know that have you guys reported it already?
I just, sometimes the kids are seeing me and so I walk them to the pool, but otherwise I'm supposed to just send them to the pool, but I'm like, I cannot send them. Walking.
So
And maybe they're walking in a bigger group, so that.
Yeah, then at some level, this is where it's multiple jurisdictions needing to look at how to deal with this. Because if the kids feel unsafe and it's during school hours, that's an APS thing. And it's a school management thing too. If there
That's right.
is misbehavior in the area, if there's inappropriate activity in the area, that's where it goes across to an ACSAP thing. So why don't we get this addressed, circle back the next meeting, see how we did. Okay?
And if I may,
Yeah.
the new superintendent of APS is also a Highland graduate.
Oh, well, look at
She's a
that.
Highland
So you're gonna have a lot.
And you know, APS should be taking the lead on this,
Right.
and we don't feel they really are.
I mean, I don't.
I mean, not
want
AP, schools.
Yeah, the
Schools.
APS. So, okay, so I just, before we get too deep into some various issues, I want to bring us back. But Wally has his hand up, so Wally, go.
If we have an obligation to respect an unhoused person's civil rights, we darn sure have an obligation to protect our children's rights when they're trying to walk in schools. At least as much.
It's not a one-way, it's not a one-way thing.
It's not a one-way thing, you're absolutely right about that. So,
But it feels
and I
like it
don't-
quite often. It
so,
does feel like it quite often.
so let me just pull us back, because I think in this situation, we have identified some action items. I don't think anybody in this room feel like the people who are unhoused have more rights than the children walking to school. Does anybody feel like way?
A lot of people
No,
live
I'm
here.
just, no, I'm asking if anybody in this room feels that way, right?
Absolutely.
You feel like the homeless have more rights than the children and they should have more rights than the children?
That's what they should.
Yeah.
I
Right.
feel like they do.
Right. So we have a path to address this. Do you guys feel like that path addresses some of the concerns that we brought up? Okay.
I just wanted to add that they're all, the fact that it's maybe a park, as opposed to school property isn't the end all be all, because there are all sorts of things that where children have extra protections. Sex offenders can't live near schools or playgrounds. There's a huge enhancement, for selling drugs on a schoolyard. It's illegal to bring a gun into a schoolyard. There are all sorts of examples of things where, because children are present or because it's a school, liquor was the other example I wanted to give. You can't have a liquor store within a certain distance of the school. Just because it may be a park isn't gonna, give it a pass for
For a person who's unhoused.
Activities are happening.
Right. Yeah.
So
you did have
great
this-
conversation, really, like, thank you so much for facilitating, and I appreciate you guys' comments. I think it would be awesome to let APD finish with, and just finish the conversation about the data, what you guys are interested in getting from APD. And then if you're cool with that, then Maria, and I'll support her in getting a conversation put together for the next time you guys meet about this particular topic, if that's amenable for you guys.
Yeah, so we could,
So it definitely sounds like it's something we need to talk
yeah,
about more
we
about.
do need the data.
Yeah, we need
So
to
we
finish
know
this part,
we need
and we
a
really can't
baseline.
go off on a tangent, because we won't get this done tonight, and they're not gonna spend every month with us. So,
As
we
much
go
as I
back-
know you want to, Marie.
Yeah.
We appreciate it.
and let me just clarify that we have set up a way to address this, right? And did you get signed in so that we can definitely follow up with you directly? The sign-in sheet's going around. Okay, all right, go.
But this is actually everything that I had. I think we went to the last slide, right? Because the last slide was just the definitions of the calls.
With the shop spotter one if they want.
Oh, yeah, there's the shot spotter.
You'll
there is.
erase that. You'll be able to erase everything.
Oh, yeah, because
Go
I'm now just drawing all over the screen. This is ShotSpotter by month, if everyone knows what ShotSpotter is. This
Is
is
that the same area that was drawn out?
correct, yes. Excuse me, yeah, so the ShotSpotter is the sonar technology that's detecting gunshots, any loud noise under a certain frequency of wavelength under over a certain frequency. It follows very similar to the city. We didn't do a citywide comparison on this one because we didn't know how interesting it was going to actually be. But if you guys are interested in seeing that, we can totally provide this in more detail. If you want to see that, that was everything we came up with. Part of what I wanted to do was get what you guys wanted to see and try to provide that moving forward.
We got like a trend line on this,
Not on this right now, but we could.
but someday.
Yeah.
And then would it be possible to put the trend line of the city wide and then the ID?
Sure.
Like next, so you can kind of see.
ShotSpotter is a little bit hard because we don't cover the whole city.
Sure,
But you
no,
can
not
put the
not for
ShotSpotter.
this, but the other day.
Yeah, absolutely. Sure.
I'll say, let's say, ShotSpotter, in this area, I used to, be the crime analyst here in the southeast. We started an initiative of a ShotSpotter TAC plan with all the officers. And just in the southeast, ShotSpotter has greatly come down since we started this initiative or this TAC plan. It's usually officers working overtime that are coming in and collecting these casings and, basically being insurance. I know the ShotSpotter kind of goes crazy, but from what I've seen in the
It's
southeast.
incredibly accurate data. So what they're primarily doing is going and knocking on the doors that are causing these problems. So.
So we are seeing a downtrend in ShotSpotters, kind of here, but also in
Throughout the
the
rest of the
area
site.
of command as well.
Because of that.
Because of the TAC plan and also because of our SHOT program, I believe the news talked about it.
It's called SHOT.
It's called SHOT,
Very
like ShotSpotter, hotspot,
SHOT.
organized. It's a very convoluted name, but they they concentrate on high levels of activity and they will knock on those doors and kind of explain to them. We're here, we're collecting casings and everything.
And what you're doing is actually not legal, they should be on top of it.
Yeah, I just tell them.
So Maria, is the question here to have the committee kind of talk about like what if the data is right and like, what they might, if you guys like it or if you want.
If there's some additional context here that might help you.
Well, I'd like to know, does this cover the entire area that you?
Yes, correct.
So no matter where, like if it's outside my window, wherever that might be in that area, it's gonna be picked up here?
I can't say that positively,
Okay.
but generally, if it's outside, it usually picks it up. It's
There's a good chance.
it's incredibly accurate. It doesn't pick up, we know for a fact that it doesn't pick up lower caliber, so it doesn't pick up like 22s, but it will pick up 9s.
Downtown and southeast are the first areas to get covered by ShotSpotter.
So I used to call the shots in, I don't anymore.
Sure.
But when the shots go off, the data goes downtown or goes to an officer somewhere and they check it out. So
Correct. It goes to dispatch, will, I think the time, we have numbers on all of this and I don't want to say anything that's not true, but it's very quick. It's very quick that it detects it and then it gets verified by a person and then if it is a really gunfire, because it also pick up like car crashes, loud trailers, things like that.
So is it still an app?
Yes, they do. Now, all of the officers have it in their pocket and it shows them within 3 meters. I
It
think.
maps, like they say live with it,
Eight,
like they get there early to find the person.
So how often do they go out and not find the casings?
That is a good question and one I don't want to answer inaccurate.
So, okay,
Yeah,
so
And does ShotSpotter differentiate between fireworks?
It does, yes, there is a manual verification on every notification. There's a person listening to it, and I've listened to a lot of them myself, and you can tell when it's a gunshot.
And I just want to make sure that Carrie, you get to ask.
Thanks. I've gone up to try to see the months twice, and am I correct that there is no correlation between those high points and the 4th of July and New Year's when people?
So 4th of July and New Year's are special cases. They're not technically covered under the contract. They do get a larger delay on those days and they get extra scrutiny. We do still get like actual verified cases, but the accuracy does go down. Yes.
But people do fire their guns up in the air on those.
Yeah,
But I'm not seeing a jump for those.
They get extra scrutiny and the real honest answer is that this company doesn't guarantee those days accuracy. The accuracy goes down, but we still get activations on those days, yes.
Thank you. because it's a triangulating system. And so if you have multiple shots at different points within that triangle at midnight, they're not gonna be able to triangulate it if there are multiple shots at the same time. So you just can't. Okay, well,
For me, a question would be, out of any one of those days, how many of those actually are followed up to the point that you can say, oh, that was nothing, or that turned into something?
There's an SOP in place that if an officer is dispatched, which if the detection is verified to be an actual gunshot, an officer gets dispatched. And they have to go to their point that they're indicated to within, I think it's 3 meters is the guarantee on the point on their phone, and look for any evidence.
and the reason they're gathering that evidence is because they can put it into, what's it called? NIBIN. And they can run it through the Well, you talk about this because I only sort of know about it anymore.
NIBIN is basically similar to a fingerprint for the casing that comes out of the gun. So they can put it into NIBIN and it will analyze it, and it can match to casings that were picked up across town. It can match back to other crimes. So it's a very very good program and a very accurate program for matching up one gun to multiple casings, maybe around the city.
I think my question would be more, how does this help solve crimes?
So partially through NIBIN, the first estimate that I can remember off the top of my head, because I don't have the numbers right in front of me, was I believe that it reduced the response time for shots fired called by 70% or something like that, where they are much, much faster than we used to be, which has helped in saving lives when we do get there. But NIBIN, the amount of casings entered into the NIBIN database has grown exponentially, because now we can actually find the casing, because we know very closely. It's guaranteed within 3 meters, and what I have seen is that it's usually within 1 meter. That you stand right there and, oh, there it is, it's right there. This is exactly where the gun went off. So it has really, really increased the number of the size of the database for the vendor.
Okay, John.
These numbers are for the aggregate for a month?
Correct, this is each month.
Yes.
Since the beginning of 22.
So pulling back to like, why are we even looking at this? Is to look at, like, here's another measure that we have of activity in the area. And so if you feel like, you know, guns going off is a measure of activity that you want to be able to compare month to month, year to year. And this is the Gibson.
This is within that boundary, but we can change that boundary. If we want to do that half mile we're talking about, we can do that too.
You could do city, Gibson, and half mile radius.
Yeah, certainly.
And then compare month to month. So what we're doing today is looking at like, what data do you want? You have the report that you're getting from 311 on specific things, types of calls. So what are our priorities on the crime data that we want to see month to month? And there's a pretty extensive list that
Yes.
we had.
And we are actually, the discussion we had before I came up here was that we could include proactive. Like we could say how often are officers actually coming out to this specific area. We could have that as well.
So, I think that shot spotter information, that would be very helpful for us in this, the particular area that, that's outlined. Simply because, it seems like, and thank goodness for the law enforcement, unfortunately, they're finding on these ops that they do or attack plans, enormous amount of guns. The younger the people are, like, committing the crimes, they stop them, there's guns in the car. So, and every night, I mean, that's our lullaby, you know, you go to sleep to hearing gunshots and
Yeah.
and you're trying to decide, well, you know, because we're all getting experts, we don't want to be, but
that an AR-15? Was that, you know, so, I think that would, since we're trying to, work hand in hand like with ACS and NAPD and trying to get our quality of life back up and get help for the unhoused. And I think this would be very good information for us to have so we can follow and see. Because all of these are really good tools that are in effect now. And so it would be great to see from month to month, like now we're getting into the school year. So hopefully the amount of gunshots would lessen a little bit. There is hope. There is hope. You know, and then now in the winter months, when people are just living out on the street and they don't want shelter, they have weapons to protect themselves. You know, so I think that would be really good information for us to have.
September would also end up to know how many shot spotters there are in this.
Unfortunately, we cannot tell you that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't want to know where, because I can find them. I don't know how many there are.
No, they
A
don't.
lot
they
is
don't
a pretty solid answer.
Yeah, and you don't want them to release the map, right?
No.
You don't want people to know where you
Oh,
go
no,
to
we don't
somebody
know.
and have them not know.
But I
So
know what they look like.
But the areas can be explained, you know, where the networks are set up,
The boundaries.
the general
Yes.
area.
Yeah.
Just want to know how many there
I
are.
thought we could,
Oh,
Then
I don't know, we'd have to get clarification on that.
So, yeah, I know, yeah, that we wouldn't be able to get that because who would want to give that information to the criminal, you know?
Right, they
Um,
never released it, even when they were first checking out to see if it worked in the small areas. And like I said, downtown Southeast were the first to try it out and have the officers trained, and then they expanded from there.
I think it's to the mall, isn't it?
Every area command has it.
And they know where they are.
And so the range is you have hypothetically one in each area command, so the range would be the whole District 6.
Again, it's triangulating,
Oh,
so it's like,
Alright.
you know, it's gonna be multiple
Yeah.
things all
Yeah.
over. Yeah,
So yes, for
John,
I feel like I'm fighting against acronyms. CRM, what does that mean?
it's in, what are you looking at?
What context?
I'm looking at your.
Oh, is this the 311 data?
That's the 311 data,
CRM contacts.
customer. I know, but I'll get an answer for you. It'll, you might
Customer
come to me.
relationship management.
Well, that's one of them, but I don't think that's,
Crime contacts.
No, these are 311.
community response.
You're looking at the wrong side, Mark.
Well, I'm seeing the CRM over here, I'm seeing the.
I bet it's
It's in the name of the analyst who put it together has it in their title,
community response.
probably.
I think it's a
Wouldn't surprise
community
me.
response, but, I'll double check with Carrie. Remember she was here with us?
yeah.
And so CRM.
So does it do any good to call when you hear shots?
It does.
It does.
Yes, and it will also help detectives to speak to people on the scene too. That always helps too.
I just always thought it was good to have it recorded.
Yeah.
In the old days,
Mhm.
but, okay.
And very often, the discussion, when we are asked to provide this data, they very frequently ask for both this as well as call in. Because community engagement is its own metric altogether, and that's what CAD, the other data, those are the actual calls that are coming in. We value that a lot, knowing who cares that we show.
Right. Okay, and then I have a quick question about this 311 data, yeah. It has gateway on here, which I can't even see. I guess it's between the 101 and the 258 or something. I'm just wondering, gateway, when everybody leaves here, they get transported over to San Mateo and Central. Is that not correct?
When people leave.
Yeah, in the morning. No.
No, nobody goes to San Mateo Central.
No one's leaving here.
You're mixing up
Okay, what
the
am I?
different services that have been provided here. So in the winter, when there was emergency shelter,
Then they were.
those people were
They were
going
bus
out
not
of the
only to
facility.
San Mateo Central, there was a bus that had stops at, God's Warehouse, no, First Nations, because they're open during the day.
Okay.
And Hope Works downtown and, the Rocket Noonday.
Okay, so
The-
the
the
way we're
3
set
days
up now, people are staying here all day.
The way it's set
Yes.
up now, yes.
Okay. The reason I was asking is because if you're gonna report a gateway issue, it wouldn't necessarily be at Gateway. It
So,
might be where they're being dropped off was how I was thinking.
so I'll go back to Carrie, but what I believe, if you look at the encampment reporting or the map, is that what she was trying to do is have the gateway cover the radius, and then the rest of it is by the full 87108 zip code. So, but I will verify
What that gateway
what is-
category is. That was a question I
Category.
had, because looking at that, doesn't make
Right, I mean,
a
what,
lot of sense.
how, right, yeah.
Okay, I can ask her just to clarify
Okay,
for that. And also TRM.
You go back to the definitions of the full-times.
So can we get all of this, or do we need to prioritize?
We will, I would do these same call types, use these same groups, and report those stats just as we were, and do like a month over month comparison. This was last month, this is the current month, and include ShotSpotter, and we can include proactive too. And over the 3 areas, we want to say the whole city, and then the 1 mile, and then the half mile. And that'll give you an idea of how concentrated it is, which would be 3 plus proactive plus ShotSpotter would be 4 measures at 2 months times 3. So maybe it's gonna be 2 pages. I don't know if I can fit that on one.
That'll be perfect.
Okay.
You're just gonna send it, and I'm the one who's gonna print it out. So
Wonderful.
it's all good.
I'll try and make it beautiful as I can.
Like beauty, but we also need real clarity, because these guys know how to.
Make it, it's colorful, it's very colorful.
Yeah, just stick with the blue.
That's true, that's true. We got
They're
pigeonholed on that.
they're pretty stuff on board. Okay. So, and then we're gonna start do you wanna just start in? Do you wanna do like July to January? Or do you want to start in September, or do you wanna just start in like January of, I can't remember, 2022 is what you have, or January 2023, and go from there?
Yeah, it depends on,
Or-
we've said more data never hurts.
Yeah, I love additional context, because this is never the full story. Right?
Yeah, so we can start, I mean, since the gateway opened in September of 2023, we can start in January of 2023, and since the months keep going.
And just keep
it'll
this line,
start
keep the
slowly
line graph
falling off.
going, and then also add that month over month comparison. So maybe a third page of line graphs and then some numbers.
Did you say start before Gateway opened?
Yeah,
Yeah,
just
I
to show like
think that's a
a
good idea,
before
yes.
and then like as gateway was opened.
And then do we want to keep that context, or do we want this to roll off? Like, do you want to just always look at the last 2 full years up until the current month?
Let's
And
do
then-
that, because otherwise we're just gonna have like.
Eventually, this will become just a blur of a line, right?
Yeah, and so we want to stay in something where the data keeps meaning, because when you get too much, it was.
You get caught up on this winter, and then you just never get over it.
So, does that sound okay to you guys, that it goes off, that you're?
Oh, yeah,
And then,
yeah,
and then of course, like, when you decide, you know what, we want to look at a 5-year. Then we put a
Absolutely.
request, and they're like, okay, here's your 5-year look.
I think that would be good, because too much information.
You know, we all know that too much data just
Too much
makes
data.
you drown.
Yeah.
Try to avoid the wall of numbers every
Yeah.
time. Yeah.
Okay, all right. Any other questions for them, or things that you were hoping that we would have in our monthly reports?
I like to say good information, good report.
And thank you, Michelle.
We're writing down what I just said, we're reviewing it.
So Michelle, was your analyst for this area? For how long did you?
Oh, I was here for about a year and then I got promoted to supervisor and now, there's another analyst in here, Dana, who is just as good as me, if not better.
The reason we were dictated this was because I was the analyst for the Southeast before Michelle was.
Oh.
I helped develop the first map and then she helped develop the report as it rolled through.
Okay. So, and then, I'm not gonna let Laura off the hook because some people have been like, what is Laura's role here? And so, Laura, do you want to tell me today what you do as a crime prevention specialist?
Sure. Well, I am the senior crime prevention specialist, which means I handle things citywide as far as administering programs. But I am also covering the Southeast and University area commands as well. So I have 3 jobs. And our focus in crime prevention is really 5 areas. Neighborhood watch, which you're all familiar with, and Dr. Valletta, one of our block captains, sits right over there. It's almost as old as I am. It was started in 1972 with the idea that environment can impact crime. And it's really a block by block organizing effort to bring neighbors together and bring back a sense of community. We also have our crime prevention through environmental design. And that is a way we take a look at physical property, whether it's an individual home, a business, a house of worship. And we suggest recommendations that can improve the physical security of a property. So we're looking at natural surveillance or visibility. We're looking at maintenance, how well is it maintained? We are looking at the territoriality, how well is the space defined? And we make recommendations in those areas as well as access control to a property, whether that's pedestrians or vehicle access. We also have our crime-free multi-housing program, which partners with rental communities of any size. It could be a single family rental up to a 400 or 500 unit apartment community. And we look at making those spaces safer and we look at it holistically. So we bring in property managers and owners for an 8-hour training class. We do a security survey of those properties and there's certain basic requirements that we have if they would like to participate in the program. And then we meet with residents in a safety social and let them know some crime prevention tips and also responsibilities. I remember talking to a property manager one afternoon who was very frustrated because one of her residents had had her purse stolen from a vehicle, not once, not twice, but 3 times. And she said it was the property manager's fault. So we talk about those responsibilities and also prevention techniques. We do community education, so we do different workshops for the public, and then we do community engagement activities. Probably one of our better known is coming up in just about a little over a week, and that's National Night Out. But we also do a lot of tabling events, participate with, for instance, I go out to Kirtland Air Force Base once or twice a month to welcome the newcomers and provide them with information on how they can be safe. We work with our schools, we work with daycares, so we do a lot of community engagement activity as well.
Well, we're lucky to have you, lady. Thank you.
Yeah. So as we're going along, when we run into things, that's why I'm always like, well, I only sort of know it and you really know it. Okay, so that was a lot of what we were planning to cover tonight. We have 9 minutes left. So, Sandra.
So on the fun side, South San Pedro and Elder Homestead, we are teaming together at Wilson Park, August the 6th for the National Night Out. So I invite everybody because we're trying to get all of D6 neighbors involved. I don't know how many yeah. How many associations participate in Neighborhood Night Out, but
South San Pedro is the biggest neighborhood association in this area, and we, Elder Homestead, are just a little corner of them. So we've expanded and we're our board and their board, we're working really close together to kind of expand community engagement. And so anyway, there's gonna be a big pizza party,
Are you bring
drinks.
swimsuits?
I
I'm
don't
just
know,
totally kidding, I'm not bringing this one.
I don't know if the park's gonna be open, or the swimming is gonna be open, but it's 5 to 7. We're gonna have DJ, pizza, drinks. There's gonna be about 4 or 5 different organizations that are gonna be tabling. And hopefully there's no monsoon rain. But anyway, extend the invitation to everybody. Come and have a slice of pizza.
And who is it gonna be
Wilson Park.
at? Wilson Park?
Yeah, so it's not this coming Tuesday, but the following Tuesday.
It's in August 6th,
Yes,
5 to 7,
5 to 7.
in Wilson Park.
Yes, and so of course, we're gonna be calling the city the day before or the day of to help clear any encampments or solid waste to come and pick up whatever, so we can make sure that it's safe for the kids and the families.
I'm sure the encampment team is gonna have National Night Out as one of their key things
Oh,
that
okay,
they're
yeah,
making sure they're
yeah.
paying attention to. So, it's on
And I
the
know they're
list.
all gonna be busy.
All the departments have it on their list, so it should be, yeah. Pete,
The opioid settlement town hall is scheduled on August 3rd from 12:30 to 3:30 at the International District Library. Please attend. There's millions available. We want to make sure these monies are spent correctly.
yeah, and this is your option to give input on, or give your ideas on how that money can be spent or should be spent. Also, I have to remember the date, because it's not in my head, but and I'll have, a flyer for you, but there is going to be a dual diagnosis summit. Dual diagnosis is when a person has mental illness and substance use, or sometimes when they have, physical issue and substance use together. And so it's inviting not just medical and, professionals who are working with this population, but it's also talking about communities and inviting communities to understand better what's going on. And so I'll make sure that I get you that flyer. And then there's a fentanyl summit also coming up in September, but I didn't put it on my calendar in the right way, so I can't tell you which day it is, but I will tell you. At the next meeting, there'll be plenty of time for you guys to get the information. Also, City Parks asked me to make sure that you guys know that Jack and Jill Park is gonna get fenced off for a refresh. And it's the same thing like that they have done with Trumbull. Trumbull will reopen and Jack and Jill Park will be fenced off. And I think that's at the end of this week. So, and I think that was all I had, right? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, Mike.
I think it was a week ago that the Mile High neighborhood and Mark Twain and the revitalized San Pedro met at the state fairgrounds about a initiative to try to sort of clean up the alleyways on both sides of South San Pedro. I'm going to try to work with them to get some of that information out to the public so that they can, you can add your thoughts to what we're talking about in that area, but also to look at alleyway safety in other parts of the city. I went out with Sandra and who was it?
Ryan or Nick?
Yeah, and it was amazing just touring the alleys and talking to neighbors there and also finding the recyclable metal. And that's another project, working with the homeless people to clean up the alleys by collecting recyclable metal.
That's great. Chuck?
I've heard that there's a program to help people avoid eviction And it's like a $2 million fund somehow to try to study how to help people not become homeless because they need rent assistance, they need something. Do you know anything about that? Who's heading that up or who are talking about that?
I don't, do you know if it's a city program, a state program?
Yeah, what do we see?
Yeah, I don't know.
So,
It's a $2 million fund to study and to try to help people avoid being homeless because of they're sick and they can't pay the rent in June, July, and to help them with funds and study what would it take to help them because, you know, when a person gets a 6-day notice, then they know they're in trouble. And then they get a 20-day notice, and if we get in touch with them then to see what their problem is it illness, sickness, drugs, or did they share they offer them a job? We can intercede right away. And I found that just a couple of $1,000 helped them get back on their feet. And $2 million, I'd like to.
figure out which program
Okay, I'll
that is,
check
because it
back.
sounds great.
Counselor Ross told me about it. I'll
Yeah.
get back and check, or,
Counselor Roger?
he told me about it. I think.
Yeah, there's something here for the city.
Huh?
It says rental assistance, City of Albuquerque, and you can contact them if you need help with your rent.
So
I know, that doesn't work.
So we
Why?
definitely,
Why doesn't that work?
so there are definitely some programs, I'm just not sure if there's, I don't know a new $2 million program. And Connie isn't either, and like between us, we usually kind of have a good idea. So we'll have to see we'll have to ask Counselor Rogers what she was referring to, which program, so we can get you the details on how that works.
We'll talk to you.
Sometimes if it's out of context, we don't know what they're talking about. Yeah.
Two, kind of public service announcement.
Uh-huh.
There's a fellow who's opening up a little community market on San Mateo across the street from Inspiration Park
Uh-huh.
at 816, and he's gonna try to make a go of it. He's cleaning up and a sign up says 505 Supermarket.
Oh, nice.
So that's cool. And then there was a blurb on the news tonight that the old Walmart is under contract with somebody, but they couldn't tell us who it was. You know,
No, I don't know. Well, I don't know.
Where's
that
Terry?
one yet. I know, we'll put it up there as an action item, asking Terry Bernard to tell us who it is. So if we do, I'll let you. Just real quick before we wrap up, our next meeting, we had talked about having city planning with the come and do a presentation on their plans. And then I also want to make sure that the dates that I put on here in bold are the dates, because we're doing the last Thursday of the month, except not Halloween and not Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
So, and not Christmas.
Not when there's a debate.
I canceled that one. I had everything so ready for you guys last time. But so I'm gonna put these dates on the calendar for the next 6 months, because I'm trying to make sure we're planning enough in advance that everybody knows when we're meeting. So and you guys still want city planning to come and chat with us? They may know who it is too.
I bet I'm sure they do.
So yeah, that would be good. So that's, we still want to do that for next month? Okay, super.
Then we'll get that new data next time.
So yeah, we're gonna have your new APD report along with your 311 report next month. So
Great.
okay, great. Hey, thanks, Keith.
Yeah.
Have a good night. All right, so with that, we're done for the night and almost right on time. So cheers to all of you. Thank you, Laura. Thank you. Already in the shop. Yeah. Hey, John.
And what you watch? I wonder I can't.